Speaking of Apple, apparently iPhone supply is now tight. And this wasn't the case at launch. They actually appeared to have a good amount of volume of iPhone 12s and 12 Pros and all the variety. We didn't have any issues getting over 100 of them.
Yeah. No big deal.
I didn't think about that connection until I just read this headline and thought about that enormous giveaway that we did. Shout out to everyone who participated. That was a wild, absolutely wild experience. Shout out to everybody who's new here on the Lou Later Show who partook in that. We'll do it again at a later date. But so the devices weren't in tremendously short supply, which was actually a bit of a surprise for this release because of COVID, because of 2020. There was a lot of question around supply, but they found a way to bang it out. However, apparently supply is tightening up now because a couple of different manufacturers making iPhones for Apple are currently on probation for violations. And those two suppliers, Pegatron and Wistron, they're, well, of course, we reported on a situation in India, but apparently both of them have been found to, well, Pegatron specifically was found to be falsifying documentation and misclassifying student workers, allowing them to work nights and or overtime, as well as performing work unrelated to their major. So there's like all these little loopholes and ways in which these manufacturers can increase efficiency and increase productivity. And they try to find ways to maneuver it in such a fashion that doesn't get back to Apple. By the looks of it, I mean, based on the reporting, of course, I'm not inside the facility. And they have these crazy deadlines to meet, the suppliers themselves. And it's like any other buyer, it's like any other customer. You want as much as possible for as little as possible.
Yeah, and you want Apple as a client. You don't want to lose them.
No, you want to deliver business, whatever it is that they happen to be asking for. But if this leaks out, that's the point at which you got a problem. Mm-hmm. If the reports leak out, or if you have the riot or whatever it was at the Wistron facility, and it becomes news, well, now Apple's got to swing the hammer, because that whatever the fragment of increased efficiency that you received, you just negated it with all this bad press and all this headache associated with having to go in there. Like, I was reading about and I have another recap on it coming a little bit later, but about the Wistron plant specifically outside of Bangalore, and how they had 3 human resource employees for 10,000 workers.
Oh, good.
So 3 people that you could talk to about your employment, and there's 10,000 of you. It's just not feasible. Mm-hmm. It's just, things weren't set up. They weren't really ready to go at the level that most people would expect, and certainly at the level people would expect in the western side of the planet over here. Like, people are really surprised to find out about these conditions sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it goes up and down, and sometimes people really want to talk about it and think about it, and then other times people want to kind of ignore it and say, I like my thing, I like my phone, get out of my way.
Yes.
But like everything,
there's a real cost to
something. Of course, anything. There's no freebies here. You want something, you got to take something.
Yeah.
You got to give something up, and so you try to do your best with it, but it's never going to be a perfect situation. So, anyways, both of these 2 suppliers are on probation for separate violations, and these violations, by the way, Apple has guidelines. Like, they want a certain standard to be met if they're going to partner with you. And Apple has had tremendous difficulty finding the right partners that meet their criteria. Mm-hmm. And I don't think like I said previously, there's not a perfect way to do it. However, they are investigating. At least they're on probation. But this probation situation is going to lead to diminishment in supply, which is to be expected. Just fewer iPhones getting pumped out. So anyway, I have one more story on this. It goes into a little more depth on the India specific situation, but that's coming up in a few moments here.